gathered here in Chiang Mai from 9th to 11th of June, and we brought about 30 plus people from South and Southeast Asia, but also have invited our local partners and allies. So what we've been organizing is what's called a GESI training, which is gender equality and social inclusion and restoration. So what we really felt was that at the global stage, there was a lot of recognition on the importance of restoration initiatives globally. But when we really look into the local implementation or the case studies, we definitely see that there is a lack of support for community-led restoration efforts. But even within that small space, there is still a lack of recognizing the roles of women and girls in these restoration initiatives. So we gathered here to build a community of practice. So we wanted to gather different allies, women from women's rights organization, indigenous peoples organization, environmental organizations, to come here together for us to really understand not only what is restoration, because most of them already have been working on the ground on restoration for many years. So it's not something new that we're building up on the importance of restoration, but rather understanding is what would actually really a gender responsive restoration look like.
Namaste, I'm 𝗀𝗱𝗶𝗶. I'm from Nepal. I'm working the Women's Rights and Resource Network called to WRRN. I'm very happy we are in here, Chiang Mai, so organizing to the women's biodiversities, like a more discussion. We are in here like a very inclusive participant. So youth and the elder and the mixed group in here, and coming to the very mixed idea and the next opportunity we are finding in here, and we are making to the gender like a framework also. Especially we discussing too about the what is the gender-based violence in the natural resource side, and we are working in the forest sector. So more different types of the violence in the natural resource movement, and so we are bringing to the new idea and new issues also in different country. And when it comes to the issues and challenges, we will make to the like a common understanding and go to the secure the rights for the women's and the rural women's and the young women's and indigenous women and local community women's in the like a decision making process and policy process. So that is also important in policy making process. And here is the we make to the we have a very few days, and within the 3 days we will very openly discuss and bring to the new idea. And this is the good opportunity for the learning sharing each other and different countries. So that will be very useful for the biodiversity women. So we can share to the like a globally different platform for our position for the women.
I am happy to attend the GESI Technical Workshop, and I should say that the space is very safe and a lot of learning and sharing from each other. And I feel that the new things that I've learned, I will be using in the work that we do in the region, particularly in Assam, Meghalaya and Nagaland, where we are based. I am happy that the self-awareness exercise that was done is quite a reflective one, and I should say that through that a lot of intersections that we have in identities, that was quite something that we need to unpack, and we also need to see the kind of biases that unconsciously come across in us, in our approaches. So those are some of the things that at a very personal level. Other than that, the international mechanisms on GESI, on conservation, that's something that I need to ponder more and learn more.
Already done, already done. I'm Nam Pongwitun from Global Youth Biodiversity Network for Thailand, or GESI Thailand. What I've learned from this workshop, I would like to say there are 3 things that I've learned. First is that I really understand who I am. So starting from this, I can understand and receive more perspectives of how is or what is the identity of others. For the second thing is that I've learned and understand more about the experiences of others that experiencing about the gender inequality in the social. And then the third thing is that I understand the terms of reforestation, afforestation, and things about the GESI workshop. And of course, from all the things that I have learned during this training, I will be using this in my local conference of Youth Thailand, or 𝗀cie Thailand, that is going to be organized this year. So please stay tuned for our conference for youth.
Summit restoration project coming from a very impartial policies, which means that the policies in implementing the projects do not take into account participation from indigenous peoples, local communities, youth, women as the ones who would be affected the most by the restoration projects, and one of the project that is not going through an 𝗙PIC process.
So looking at how at the global level, there is a lot of commitment on restoration initiatives to different things, including you have the CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity's KMGBF, the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Now within that framework, which is a blueprint for biodiversity conservation for the next 2030, one of the key targets in that KMGBF is restoration, which is target 2. Now within that framework, what we're also really understanding is that when governments at the national level are planning their restoration efforts, or what's called their national biodiversity strategies and action plans, it's really important that they engage women's rights organizations into those discussions. They engage indigenous peoples' organizations into those discussions when making policies, but also including youth. You will see nowadays the youth is really very active, and a lot of them are taking also on volunteer basis, on networks they have employed, on looking at restoration efforts. So they also really need to be recognized. Now, one thing about restoration is it's not only about recognition, but we always talk about full and effective participation. But we also really need to understand that when you're looking at through a GESI or a gender-responsive framework, we need to understand that it's not only about numbers. It's about data. We need to have data on the number of projects that are gender responsive. We need to look at the disaggregation of data on who is doing that. And within that, we also really need to make sure that there is budget. Because yes, we may have these gender trainings and we may have, looking at gender responsive restoration, but it also has to be supported, not only with capacity building, but we also are hoping that this will also strengthen and empower our networks, our partners, our allies, our friends, to also use this as a tool to also ask at the national, at the global, including the local level, of how policies can also ensure that there is adequate funding provided. Because yes, you can have capacity building, but without funding support, once again, you'll again not be able to fully implement these international commitments.
Inclusivity, indigenous women, gender equality, restoration.
Women create food security.